In a hotel with an ominous and dark history, a 21-year-old tourist would completely disappear without a trace, leaving behind the most bizarre footage and eventually a discovery so grim it will make your stomach churn. This is the horrifying story of Elisa Lam. "21-year-old Elisa Lam was born in Vancouver, Canada. She was the daughter of immigrants from Hong Kong and grew up in a loving family environment alongside her parents and siblings. Growing up in Vancouver, Elisa attended the University of British Columbia, where she pursued her studies. She was described as a bright and talented student with a passion for learning and exploring the world. Elisa's interests ranged from literature to travel, reflecting her curious and adventurous spirit. Elisa had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression. She had been prescribed several medications for her mental health issues, including antidepressants, a mood stabilizer, and an atypical antipsychotic. But Elisa also had a history of not consistently taking her prescribed medication, which on several occasions led to hallucinations that drove her to seek refuge under her bed. She shared her experiences and thoughts on her blog, including her ongoing battle with these mental health challenges. In a blog post from January 2012, she candidly expressed her frustration with a relapse during that school term, which forced her to drop several classes, leaving her with a profound sense of aimlessness. Her post bore the title, "You're always haunted by the idea you're wasting your life," borrowed from a quote by novelist Chuck Palahniuk. Elisa was extremely worried and stressed about how her academic history, marked with numerous withdrawals, might affect her ability to pursue further studies and attend graduate school. Elisa wasn't even sure what she wanted from life anymore. Like most 21-year-olds, she was confused about the future and not quite sure what the next step would be. Elisa decided that a trip away from home, her first solo adventure, would be a good place to start. The thought of this really excited Elisa, and so she began planning her trip. Elisa had always wanted to see the west coast of America, and so she began her journey in San Diego on the 22nd of January, where she would stay until the 27th and then make her way to Los Angeles, where she would stay for 4 days, unknowingly at the Cecil Hotel.
Awe-inspiring and breathtaking is the Cecil Hotel. Rising above the rooftops of Hollywood, it is one of the most beautifully constructed hotels of its type to be found anywhere.
The Cecil Hotel, built in the 1920s, was intended to serve as a middle-class hotel during a period of significant urban development in Los Angeles. However, over the next few years, the area around the Cecil Hotel, specifically the area known as Skid Row, turned into a high concentration of homelessness and poverty, and became one of the most dangerous areas in downtown LA. To try to combat this, the Cecil Hotel and other hotels in the area were part of a government program that allows for homeless or lower-income individuals from Skid Row to have a home for a couple of weeks, months, or in some cases, even years, which would then lead to the Cecil Hotel gaining a notorious reputation for being associated with numerous incidents of violence, drugs, murders, suicides, and other unsettling occurrences. It was also the residence of serial killer Richard Ramirez, also known as the Night Stalker. Because of all of this dark history, the place had such bad reviews that nobody really wanted to stay there. Management within the Cecil Hotel came up with a solution. They had decided to create a completely separate hotel within the Cecil Hotel that they would name Stay on Main. Stay on Main would have a different entrance and completely separate rooms, but access between both buildings could be found in the shared elevator. The hotel Elisa had booked in Los Angeles was Stay on Main. It seemed to have pretty good reviews and it was a fair price, so she booked herself 4 days with no idea of the true history of the building. On January 31st, 9 days into Elisa Lam's trip, her parents in Canada had not received word from their daughter. Up until that day, she had been in daily contact with them, providing reassurance as she travelled, which was part of the agreement of her travelling alone. This day was different. it was the day Elisa was scheduled to check out of the Cecil Hotel and continue her journey to Santa Cruz, but her parents did not receive the usual call or message from her. Worried and unable to reach her, they took immediate action. They contacted the Los Angeles Police Department to report her as missing, and they themselves would even fly to Los Angeles to aid in the search for their daughter. In response to the report of Elisa Lam's disappearance, the LAPD initiated a thorough search and investigation. Their efforts were aimed at locating Elisa Lam and understanding the circumstances surrounding her disappearance. The LAPD conducted an extensive search of the Cecil Hotel where Elisa had last been seen, although they were constrained by legal limitations and were unable to legally search the rooms of the long-term residents without probable cause. One of the places they were allowed to search included the room Elisa Lam was staying in, where officers soon found out that she had left almost everything behind. Meanwhile, at the station, detectives would sift through hour after hour of CCTV footage from the hotel, and things were not looking good, until suddenly, Elisa Lam appeared. In this short clip, Elisa Lam appears from the corridor and casually presses multiple buttons on the elevator. Then, her behavior turns completely erratic. And just like that, Elisa was gone. That was the last time Elisa was captured on footage. Even the cameras on the exits for the hotel showed no sign of Elisa. It was clear from the footage that Elisa Lam was still inside the building. The police initiated a search with dogs to sweep through the building. The dogs would manage to get Elisa's scent, which would lead them to the roof, but there was no sign of Elisa. It's as if she had simply vanished into thin air. Almost 2 weeks after Elisa Lam's disappearance, the LAPD released the CCTV footage from the Cecil Hotel, amassing millions of views within the first 10 days of release. The video sparked global intrigue, leading to multiple theories. Some believed she was trying to escape from a pursuer, while others considered the influence of substances, though no drugs were found in her system. Given Elisa's bipolar disorder, some theorized she might have experienced a psychotic episode. Questions also arose about the video's authenticity, due to alterations including an obscured timestamp, possibly slowed down segments, and potential missing footage. On February 19th, as the search for Elisa Lam continued, guests at the Cecil Hotel began complaining about issues with the water supply. Among these complaints were reports of low water pressure, water with an unusual taste and even discoloration. 2 days later, on February 21st, Santiago Lopez, a maintenance worker at the Cecil Hotel, was tasked with inspecting the rooftop water tanks. These 1,000-gallon reservoirs supplied water to guest rooms, the kitchen, and a coffee shop within the hotel. Upon opening one of the tanks, he made a grim discovery that would end the search for Elisa Lam. Lam's lifeless body was floating naked, face up in the water, her clothing at the bottom of the tank. For the past 22 days, the residents of the Cecil Hotel were unknowingly consuming Elisa Lam every time they drank from the tap. Elisa's death was ruled as accidental drowning, with her bipolar disorder noted as a contributing factor, and a more detailed coroner's report released in June revealed further details about the condition in which her body was discovered. Elisa's remains had undergone significant decomposition and bloating during her time in the water tank. Her body displayed a greenish hue with visible marbling on her abdomen and skin separation. Despite her body's distressing state, there were no signs of physical trauma, sexual assault, or suicide. While a minimal amount of alcohol was detected, no traces of recreational drugs were found, aside from the traces of prescription medication consistent with what she should be taking for her bipolar disorder. However, the concentration of her prescription drugs suggested she may have been under-medicating, which means she may have been affected by her bipolar disorder, potentially leading to a psychotic episode. During this episode, Lam was scared, terrified of possible voices she was hearing inside her head, and running from things that only she could see. In this unfamiliar place, she ran around trying to save herself from whatever she was running from. She made her way to the roof and saw the water tank as the perfect place to hide. She climbed the ladder, opened the hatch, and jumped into the water tank. Once inside, there's only one way out, through the hatch at the top, which was now completely out of reach. Elisa became trapped, forced to tread water tirelessly, hour after hour, while the noisy streets of LA would completely overwhelm any screams for help that she would make, leaving Elisa Lam in a freak situation that would be impossible to survive. Following her death, her blog continued to update, presumably through Tumblr's queue option, allowing posts to publish automatically. But her phone was not found either with her body or in her hotel room, and the source of these updates remains unclear. Thank you so much for watching, and if you did enjoy the video, please consider subscribing, as I'd love to reach 1k. But until the next true disaster, it's goodbye from me.